Okay, look at number 1. It says the length of the rectangle is 4x minus 2. So I'm going to put an L up above that so that I note that that's the length. And the width is x plus 5, which I'm going to put a W above that. We have to write an expression for the area of the rectangle. How do you find area of a rectangle? What is that formula? Length times what? Well, that's volume. It's only 2 dimensions for area. Length times width. So in this case, you would multiply them together. 4x minus 2 times x plus 5. Yay! When you see 2 binomials, you need to train yourself to think when you're multiplying them together, you FOIL. So let's do that. Everybody FOIL this right now. 4x times x is 4x squared. 4x times 5 is 20x. Negative 2 times x is negative 2x. And negative 2 times 5 is a negative 10. All I did right there was FOIL. And then I'm going to just clean this up over here because I kind of ran out of room over there. So I would get 4x squared. Combine these. Plus 18x minus 10. And that's your answer. Okay, look at the next one. It says the area of a living room is represented by this, x squared minus 2x minus 48. What are the dimensions? So now we're going from area to length and width. So we're breaking it down. We're backwards FOILing, also called factoring. When we factor, we look at this last digit and we think about the factors that go into negative 48. You have a 6 and an 8, 2 and 24, 3, 16, and a 4 and 12. Those are your factors of 48. So remember, which of these factor pairs, when added together, will equal negative 2? Added together would equal a negative 2. And remember, since this is a negative 48, one of these numbers in each factor pair needs to be negative. Do you see any of these factor pairs that we can manipulate to make one number negative when they add together would equal a negative 2? So this 6 and 8 is where Chandler's going here. Okay, she said the 6 and 8. To get a negative 2 out of 6 plus 8, your negative sign needs to be on the 8, because a positive 6 plus a negative 8 is going to give you a negative 2. All right, that's what we want. So we have a positive 6, that's x plus 6, and a negative 8, x minus 8. And that would be B. Now, if you forgot how to factor, how could you also solve this problem? How could you also solve this problem? Could you FOIL every answer choice? Yes, you could FOIL every answer choice until you got the original trinomial for an answer. And that would do the same thing. But factoring is quicker if you remember how to do it. All right, number 3, I need y'all to stay with me. Get off your phones. The area of a garden, again, they're going to give us the area. It's 4x squared minus 11x minus 3. And that's the area. And they say the length is 4x plus 1. We have to figure out what the width is. We do not know the width. All we know is that it has to multiply by 4x plus 1 and equal this area. So really, I could go in here and I could multiply each of these answer choices times what they gave us for the length, which is 4x plus 1. And I could FOIL all of these choices. FOIL. And whichever one gave me this answer is going to be the right one. Okay, so I could just do some shortcuts here. I could say 4x times 4x. That's going to be 16x squared. That's not going to be right. It has to be a 4x squared. All the rest of these would give me 4x. Let's look at the last step. The last step needs to give us a -3. -4 times +1, that's going to give me a -4. It's not going to be that one. A 3 times a +1, that's going to give me a 3. It's not going to be that one. A -3 and a +1 would give me a -3, and that's what we need. So it's D. I didn't have to FOIL all of it. I could just take one step. D. Number 4, if one of their, remember, if anything of x is y equals. If y equals x squared, the parent function, they want us to write an equation for another y equals, or what they're calling b of x, so it opens upward and is wider. It has to be up and wide. So if something is opening upward, is that a positive or a negative parabola? That's a positive parabola, okay? So we know it's going to be positive. And when something is wider, remember, fractions fatten. Wider means that it has to be less than 1 in front of that x squared. So somebody give me a fraction. I don't care which fraction. 1/4 x squared. That would be an example of a fraction or an equation that would be wider and opening up because it's positive. Number 5, again, we're comparing something to the parent function, x squared. Write an equation for c of x so it opens downward. This time we want to go downward. That's going to be a negative number and is narrow. That's going to be greater than 1. So what's a negative number? Yeah, it has to be a negative number. Huh? -4x squared, and that would work. It's opening downward because it's negative, and the 4 is greater than 1, so it would be narrow. And you could graph those in your calculators just to check. Number 6, it said, which of the following represents a solution set for the equation? Well, this one's easy because they graph it. So all you need to do is put a dot at the zeros on here. Where does it cross the x-axis? It says a solution. Another name for solution is a 0 or an x-intercept or a root. Those are all synonymous words. So where are the x-intercepts on this graph? 1 and what? 1 and 5. Good. So what's your answer, Caleb? A. Good. A. All right, let's go to the next page. Number 7. 7 says, write a quadratic, what's the line of symmetry for a quadratic whose roots are -2 and 6? Okay. So the roots, the x-axis, where it's crossing the x-axis is a -2 and a +6. I like to draw a picture so I can see what that looks like. It wants to know what the line of symmetry is. So it's the middle part, the part that splits it. The line of symmetry would be the middle of -2 and 6. How do we know what the midpoint between -2 and 6 is? We could look at a graph, but we don't have anything to put in a graph. We don't have an equation. Remember when I taught y'all how to take the average? Take the average of those two numbers, because the average between -2 and 6, the mean, is going to be that middle point. So the way you take an average is you add your two numbers up and divide by 2. So let's do that. -2 plus 6 is a 4. 4 divided by 2 is what? 4 divided by 2. 2. So your answer, the line of symmetry is x equals 2. All right, look at number 8. There's 2 ways to solve this. Way number 1, you could do the quadratic formula. Okay, this could be your A term, the B, and the C. Option number 2 is you could put it in your calculator and look and see where it crosses the x-axis. Where is the x-intercepts? So let's do that. Let's do that to save time. Put this in your calculator, please. 6x squared minus 7x minus 3. Graph it. Wow. Okay, so if I graph it and go to my table, the x-intercepts is anywhere where y is 0. Do we have anything where y is 0? Do we have any points where y is 0? No. Okay, so this didn't work out. You can't do it the calculator way. So we have to do the quadratic formula. Because what that's really telling us is there's going to be a decimal for an answer. Okay, so we have to do the quadratic formula. This way does not work because there is no y equals 0. So let's do the quadratic formula. The quadratic formula, this would be my A, -7 would be my B, and -3 would be my C. I'll give you this formula tomorrow, but today I'm just going to tell it to you. X equals -b, so it's going to be a positive 7, plus or minus the square root of b squared, -7 squared, minus 4 times a, which is 6, times 3, which is -3. X equals -b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac all over 2a, 2 times 6. Make sure you write that down. What is 2 times 6? Let's just do that real quick. 12. Okay, the bottom is 12. So now we need to solve the top. We got to solve the inside. -7 squared is 49 minus, and then we just multiply this part. 4 times 6 times -3. You're going to get 72. -72, sorry. -72. So now we have 49 minus -72. What do those two negative signs do? Plus positive. You just add them together. If you do that in your calculator, it's 121. Okay. So now you're left with this. 7 plus square root of 121 over 12, and 7 minus the square root of 121 over 12. What's the square root of 121? Yep, it's 11. So 7 plus 11 is 18 divided by 12. That's 1.5. 7 minus 11 is -4 divided by 12, which is, I think it's a third. It's a -0.3 repeating. So those are your two solutions. I'll put them over here. 1.5 comma, negative 0.3 repeating. That's your answer. We have 8 minutes left, so we're going to get quality 8 minutes in. Number 9. Nope. Number 9 is, it says, which graphing method could be used to solve the quadratic? Well, the first thing, what do you see about this equation they give you? I know I've written around it, but what do you see about that? Yeah, well, it's not equal to 0. We have to move this 10, that negative 10 over. So your new equation becomes 5x squared minus x plus 14. That's what you're working with now. So we can eliminate C because that doesn't even have the right equation in it. And it says, how can you solve it? Well, your solution is always where your x-intercept is. So what do we need to find? We need to find the x-intercept, B. The y-intercept's not going to give us a solution. The x-coordinate doesn't matter at the lowest point. It's the x-intercept, B. All right, I've told you this a million times. What are the other 3 words that mean solutions? Zeros. Roots. Remember that? Or x-intercepts. Zeros, roots, x-intercepts. Track? I don't know. Sick? Okay, look at number 11. They give you a table. And it says, this is the table for x squared minus 1. What is the solution set? So where's the x-intercept when f of x or y equals 0? Remember, anytime you see f of x, you should mark it out and put y equals. So y equals 0. So right now, I want you to circle where y is 0. There's 2 of them. 2 of them where y is 0. What are the x values there? 1 and negative 1. So A is your answer. Okay. Number 12. A circle has a radius. This is its radius. X plus 4. The area is 80.4 centimeters squared. We have to write an equation that represents this situation. So area of a circle is pi times the radius squared. Does that sound familiar? Hopefully. So we're just going to put in what we know. Sorry. 80.4 is your area equals pi times x plus 4 squared. All I did was substitute what I knew for the radius into the equation. Yep, you don't have to solve it. Hey guys, you need to be doing this with me because tomorrow I'm going to let you use your review on your test. So let's finish up. The back's not going to take long because we get to use our calculator. The length of the garden is 3 more feet than the width. So the length is going to be 3 plus the width, 3 plus W. And it says the area is 130 square feet. Find the length. Okay, so if area is length times width, we know 130 equals, we're going to sub in what we know. 130 equals 3 plus W times W, the length times the width. So now we distribute the W. So we get 130 equals 3W plus W squared. All I did was I distributed W times W and W times 3. And now I need to move this 130 over here so that it will be set equal to 0. When I do that, I get 3W plus W squared equals, minus 130. That's my equation. Okay. So what I would do here is I'm going to put this in my calculator. Instead of W, I'm going to put X. Okay. 3x plus x squared minus 130. You should not be packing up. We're not done. That's rude. So in the calculator, that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to just put that. 3x plus x squared minus 130. Well, like you can't see it, but the line is way over here. So I'm going to go to my table, and I'm going to try to see where my solution set is. If you can't find it this way, you may have to do the quadratic formula. I wanted to show you this both ways. So you would be doing the quadratic formula and you would solve for x. So you would say your A is 1, your B is 3, and your C is negative 130. And then you would solve because this is your B, your A is your x squared term, your B is your x, and your C is negative 130. Tomorrow when we come to class, I'm going to show you how to do this one. We're not done. Okay, let's finish up really quickly. These last ones aren't going to take very long. So it says, how would you shift x squared to create a quadratic with zeros of negative 3 and 3? Okay, so we wanted our zeros to be a negative 3 and a 3. How would you shift that? This is your original parent function. Where's it going to have to go, up or down? It's going to have to go down to be this. So D, it's going to have to go down. That's the only one that says down. 15, if you translate the parent function of a parabola 3 units up, which point will it pass through? Okay, so a parent function 3 units up would be x squared plus 3. But you're going to put that in your calculator and y equals. And then you're going to check the table and see which one of these points that they give you are in there. Okay. We'll look at the 16 through 20. Actually, I want you to watch the video tonight and get the rest of 16 through 20, which I'm about to finish. I want you to watch that and get the rest of that so that you'll have your complete review. Have a good day, guys. Okay, so what I'm going to do right now is I'm going to finish going through this with you guys. So I'm going to go ahead and put this into my y equals. I'm going to put that equation, x squared plus 3. So you can graph it, but then really what you need to do is go to the table and you'll see what your points are and you'll see which one is listed on this, on your 4 choices in your multiple choice. So if you do that, then you'll see that it's 312. Okay, on number 16, it says, which is an inaccurate. Inaccurate. That means wrong. Which is a wrong description of this equation. So you could put that in y equals. You can just put it in your calculator and see what happens. Y equals x plus 6 and then x minus 4 and graph it. Ooh, it's a big one, right? Well, we know the parabola opens upward, so that's not an inaccurate description. We can go to our, let's see, the vertex. Can we see what the vertex is? Looks like the vertex is -1, -25. If you look at the table, the vertex sandwich. So that's true, so that's not inaccurate. We're gonna mark that out. The solutions are 6 and -4. Solutions are anywhere y equals 0. Y equals 0 at 4. Let's see if it's -6. And y equals 0 at -6. I see that on my calculator. That is not inaccurate. That is correct. The x-intercept is 0, -24. That's not the x-intercept. That's the y-intercept. So this would be an inaccurate description. The reason I know that it's the y-intercept is because x is 0. And when x is 0, that means that your y-intercept. For these last 4, find the solutions to the quadratics. Let's go ahead and put those in the calculator. X squared minus 5x minus 36. And we're trying to find the solutions. So when we find our solutions, we're looking for x-intercepts. We're looking for those zeros. Same thing. So it's anywhere where y is 0. Anything where y is 0, okay? So I'm going to go to my table after I put that in. Anywhere where y is 0, -4, y is 0, -4. And it looks like that's the only one. It's just -4. All right. So on number 18, we have to set it equal to 0 first. So we do that. Then we had to move that 64 over. So x squared minus 64. And we're going to put that into the calculator in y equals x squared minus 64. All right, and then we're going to go to the table. Anywhere that y is 0. Y is 0 at x equals -8. And +8. All right, so those are your zeros. You need to make sure you scroll through your calculator and make sure you find all the zeros. So there's one at +8, and there was another 0 at -8. So make sure you check that. So this one had 2 solutions, -8 and +8. Let's look at number 19. Put that in your calculator, 7x squared minus 42x. We're going to go to the table. Anywhere y equals 0 is what we're looking for, okay? So it looks like 0, 0. So 0 is in one of them. And 6. Those are your solutions. And then down here, this last one, x squared minus 6x okay, and then I can't say in the calculator equals -8. I have to move this guy over first to set it equal to 0 before I can put it in there. So I'm really putting in x squared minus 6x plus 8 into my calculator. And again, I'm looking for y equals 0. All right, I have one at 2, and 4. And I think that's it. So those are my solutions there. So the last thing we're going to do in our review is we're going to back it up and we're going to go back to number 13 and I'm going to do the quadratic formula with you. And remember, we already have written down what our A, our B, and our C is because this was our equation was 3x plus x squared minus 130. Well, our A is our x squared term, that's 1. Our B is our x term, that's 3. And our C is negative 130. So I'm going to just rewrite that down up here. X equals negative B, so negative 3, plus or minus the square root of B squared, so 3 squared, minus 4 times A times negative 130, all over 2A, which would be 2 times 1. Oops. All right, so now I'm going to start with, I'll go ahead and solve that bottom, and then I'll go ahead and start working out what's under the square root. So negative 3 plus or minus, let's work out this part underneath. 3 squared is 9 minus, and then 4 times 1 times negative 130. So I'm going to get my calculator. 4 times 1 times negative 130 is negative 520. So 9 minus negative 520. Those are big numbers, but that's where we are. So these turn to positives. So you have negative 3 plus or minus the square root of 529. Well, the square root of 529 is, it's a perfect square actually. It's 23. All right, so let's write down now what we have. We have negative 3 plus 23 divided by 2, and negative 3 minus 23 divided by 2. And those two things are going to give us our answer. 3 plus 23 is going to be 20 divided by 2. That's 10. 3 minus 23 is negative 26 divided by 2, which is negative 13. So your answers are 10 and negative 13. So somebody could say, well, did we have to do the quadratic formula every time? Or can I just plug it into my calculator and y equals, let's see, 3x. Let's try it. Let's plug in this original equation. 3x plus x squared and then minus 130. And go to your table. Anywhere where you have a 0 is going to be an answer. So 10, 10, and negative 13 are both zeros. Y equals 0. So that's another way you could do it. Or you can use the quadratic formula, or you can plug it into your calculator and see where y equals 0. Please don't forget to get this signed for 5 points. And bring it to class tomorrow. Have a good day.